and we're thinking of implementing AI, we can either have what we call human in the loop. So for example, if we're processing refunds, we might allow the AI to process refunds up to a certain amount. So for example, if the amount is £20 or less, then the AI can handle those sort of refunds. But when it's above £20, then we want the human in the loop, or the human to be involved to approve those refund requests. So yes, we can still keep the human involved.
Welcome to Always On CXCX, the show for contact center and IT leaders. Between helping support your contact center reps, your customers, and the tech that makes the contact center function, you're relied upon quite a lot. You can't afford for your customer experience, employee experience, or stability of the contact center to falter. If you're ready to find the next strategy to keep your customer employee experience always on, let's get into this episode.
Hi, and welcome to Always On CXEX. I'm Jon Zoltie, contact center subject matter expert for AudioCodes. And on this series, we're talking about bringing AI into the contact center in an intentional and practical way. In previous episodes, we've covered the shift from press 1 and press 2 to how can I help you today? And we've looked at how AI can take the pain out of call wrap-ups. But today we're going a level deeper. We're talking about how actually resolving requests like where's my package, using large language models, LLMs, and data dips to close the loop without an agent ever needing to jump in. To help us demystify the plumbing behind this, I'm joined by Oren Batchelor. Oren spent over a decade working his way up from a field engineer installing phone lines to becoming the go-to expert for global product strategy in terms of contact centers. And his journey gives him a rare hands-on perspective of how to bridge the gap between hard technical reality and the actual customer experience. So Oren, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Thank you. Like that introduction that you had there, John.
No problem. So Oren, we've gone from AI routing calls to AI assisting agents with wrap-up. Now we're talking about AI closing the loop entirely. So the customer calls, gets their answer, and hangs up without ever talking to a person. Why pick this as the next thing to use AI for?
Yeah, so it's really where the volume is. It's, people want to kind of reduce the bottleneck in the sense of before people were just using AI, as you mentioned, just to maybe route calls. And now we're actually seeing that people want AI to kind of be the Sherlock Holmes. They're able to do investigation, reasoning, and rather than just being able to provide the caller with information, they kind of want the information, or they want their issue resolved when they're speaking to the AI agent. So that's kind of now the next step in terms of where we're going with AI.
Cool. So we're moving from using AI to route a call at the front end of that call, that I call it sort of the front end, to using AI to fully resolve a caller's request. Could you walk us through what's happening behind the scenes when AI handles an example like where's my package request from a caller?
Yeah, in fact, that's a good example because I was looking for my package earlier. So first of all, it would understand the intent. So what is the caller calling about? And then based on the phone number, it can do a lookup. So using the APIs with a CRM, it can then track the order number of the package and then be able to share some information back to the caller. So whether it's the case of the status of the package, so maybe saying that it's being delivered, or if it's still being processed. And what we can even do, if you want to go even more advanced, we can give these APIs, or these AI, should I say, APIs, to be able to maybe check information such as the weather. So using that to help reason as to the reason why maybe the caller hasn't received their package as of yet. So for example, John, you're looking for your package and it's saying it's stuck in Germany and there was a snowstorm yesterday and your package was supposed to have arrived yesterday. So it can use that information. It says, oh, John, there was a snowstorm yesterday in Germany. This is to the reason why you haven't received your package. However, what we will do is we'll process your package so you'll receive it tomorrow morning. So it can really use not only intent, but reasoning by providing the AI with additional tools to help them resolve the caller's issue or problem quickly.
Perfect. And in an ideal world, that works brilliantly and the caller gets the answer that they're looking for. But what happens when the AI can't find the answer and can't help that customer?
Yeah, so I think what we used to see beforehand is, for example, maybe chatbots, they would just provide the caller with their kind of stagnant or static responses. But now with AI, when it's not able to kind of resolve the information or resolve the problem for the caller, it can capture and summarize the interaction that they had with the caller and then provide that to the agent. So, for example, the caller is looking for information about their package, but they don't have information such as the reason why they don't have access to provide the caller the reason why their package was delayed. They can then send a message to the agent, or even put a message or a note on the Salesforce case as an example, saying that this caller called in regarding where their package is, and transfer to supervisor as to explain the reason why their package has not been delivered. So they can kind of provide not only a summary, but a next step of what needs to be done to the caller.
I think that's a really important point, actually, that you made. I think it's worth expanding on, but I think that hybrid approach is really important. So there's also always a human in the loop. We don't need to hand over everything to AI, for example. You've still got that human involved.
Yeah. And this is where also when we're thinking of implementing AI, we can either have what we call human in the loop. So, for example, if we're processing refunds, we might allow the AI to process refunds up to a certain amount. So, for example, if the amount is £20 or less, then the AI can handle those sort of refunds. But when it's above £20, then we want the human in the loop or the human to be involved to approve those refund requests. So, yes, we can still keep the human involved in the interaction between the caller and the AI.
Yeah, and I imagine it's equally important when they're dealing with something particularly complex, or the refund that's that higher volume or the high value, as you said, that actually they do have the option to be able to speak to a human, especially when it's high value, for example. So we've been talking about package tracking, and I think to some degree that sounds quite straightforward because it's data in, it's data out. What's the package number? Here's the response. Some requests are really good for that, and some need that human agent that we've just been discussing. So how do we think through what requests to use AI to resolve? What makes the cut and what doesn't when you're thinking about what can we use AI for?
Yeah, so I think we can kind of like put it into different categories. So, for example, for such calls where it's maybe low complexity and low empathy, such as maybe I need to reset my password, we can allow that to be automated, send that to the AI, or in your example, where's my package? Even, for example, a high complexity, but maybe low empathy, such as why is my bill higher this month? We can use the AI to kind of do the maths and provide the information to the caller. But then when it's maybe a high empathy where we need the human involved, like, for example, I need to cancel because my spouse has passed away, that's when maybe we want to pass that call over to a human agent to handle such a delicate request or call.
Yeah, so it's the easy, low-hanging fruit, as we call it, the high volume, the low variability type, boring, mundane type inquiries that we start to look at in terms of those first pieces. Brilliant. So,
and just wanted to add a small part actually, because we can even use the AI still. So, for example, the intent, it's detected grief, and then it can then pass it over to the human. So we can still kind of keep the AI, but then also hand it over to the human to continue from there.
Fantastic. So in terms of just a little bit more detail, to give you an example, I called my insurance company the other day, needed to add my wife to my car policy. It was a really positive experience, funnily enough. It actually worked really well. They just asked me certain details. I gave the certain details, and before you know it, my wife was added, and obviously I was charged another few quid. But it was a really positive experience. It was quite seamless, but I just want to know the exact process. What's going on in that back end that makes that work, and why was it seamless? What are the little elements to it that made that work for me?
Yeah, so what would have happened there is that the AI would have been given read access to, let's say, for example, a CRM interface or instance. And within that interface of CRM, they would have been able to access your records and then been able to look at your policy. So they can read your information on your policy. So they can find out, for example, how much it would cost to add another driver onto your policy. And they can calculate that, run that calculation, and then tell you how much it will cost. And the only wait time that you're having to deal with is really just basically the wait time for the API call. So whereas maybe you're waiting, if you're speaking to a human agent, you're waiting for them to maybe process or to read or to check with another department, It's rather more seamless when you're using the AI to process that sort of instance or example.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make, actually, because if I'd have called my insurance company 5 years ago, I wouldn't have had that same experience. You mentioned about the delay in just getting the API details, which can be quite quick. If I rang a few years ago, that technology was really slow. It might have asked me to repeat myself multiple different times, or my policy number. That look up against an API might have taken forever, but the technology is definitely better over the last few years. It's got a lot faster.
Yeah, and we're actually seeing that. In fact, they're saying that 1 in 2 calls never even reaches a human agent nowadays. The AI is really able to handle those interactions. So it's not even a case of it being deflected, but it's more being true resolution in regards to the sort of calls that the AI agent is handling.
That's quite an important stat, actually. So if we're looking at, 1 in 2 can be deflected with AI, when we look at the real world application of that, what sort of efficiency gains are customers seeing with that automation?
Yeah, so when we're looking at maybe, for example, the agent time, so because the AI agent is able to handle, was able to resolve a lot of those sort of simple calls regarding password resets, or maybe, for example, where's my package, that allows the agent to spend more time on more complex problems. So the, for example, average handling time is much more efficient because they're spending more time on those complex questions or problems rather than spending 15 minutes trying to locate where a parcel is or how to do a password reset for a caller. But then not only that, also it can also help make the agents work more. They make me feel more happy because they're having to they like solving the more complex cases or problems for the caller rather than just having to spend time on call just providing updates or just doing password resets. So yeah,
I can imagine that's in terms of improving job satisfaction, of dealing with complex queries and adding value to those customers rather than just dealing with those mundane questions with password reset or where's my package, for example. Really important point. And then on the customer side, in general, how are we seeing customers feel about 1 in 2 calls being automated? I'm wondering what the effect on some of the metrics like CSAT or NPS scores, for example, and how customers are feeling about that AI being implemented.
Yeah, so when you kind of implemented the AI into your system properly, you're able to see an increase in your NPS scores. So, for example, a customer just want a human connection for a password reset, right? If that AI can password reset for the caller, send them maybe an SMS message or send them a text message or an email containing a new password, then that's resolved the issue, right? They've solved that within 30 seconds of the caller calling in. So when the customer's issue is resolved, when they've called in, they're really happy. They don't mind speaking to an AI in regards to that.
I think it's relatively straightforward that people just want answers. It's not always the time that they just want to speak to a human. There are a lot of instances for that. I think they just want answers quickly and effectively. And so if you implement the AI in the right way, and the same example I gave when I rang my insurance company, I'm going to give that a much higher customer satisfaction score because the technology actually worked and was seamless. So I can see the point. So those are kind of, to some degree, the easy bit, the hard truth element of what's the hardest part of making this transition. I know you've mentioned some elements that you need to bake in there for the AI to work, and we make it sound a little bit easy sometimes, but what's the hardest bit about making the transaction? Is it technology? Is it the buy-in internally? Is it something else?
Yeah, so when we want to kind of think of having a smart AI agent, we want to be able to provide it with the necessary data, right? So we don't want to provide the AI duplicate data or have data that's scattered all over the place, as to speak. We kind of want to have it centralized and be able to feed it to the AI so the AI agent knows where to look, where to refer to, so it's able to provide a concise and quick answer to the caller. So that definitely helps.
Yeah, so just making sure that the information's in the right place so the AI can actually pull proper information for the customer. And the other bit that we see quite a lot of questions come in is all of the AI sounds great. It sounds like we have to move to cloud to be able to utilize a lot of that AI. So if someone has that data that you mentioned in different places, or their landscape is a little bit of a mess, they've got legacy systems, for example, are they just out of luck, or can you still implement AI into some of those slightly more messier states?
Nah, you're not out of luck. You can definitely still use the AI. In fact, you could have the AI as like a translator between the modern world and your legacy system. So there are means in which you can still utilize these new features and functionality for your current system.
Perfect. So what do you think the biggest mistakes you see companies make when they try to implement AI?
Yeah, there's a few. So first of all, people get excited, and what they do is they kind of build this super bot AI that maybe controls or handles not only tech support, billing, sales, every single department, and they expect the AI to be able to handle all those requests and provide a response that meets their needs. But then also when they maybe throw this super bot into the production, into the wild west, then they're not really happy because they realize, well, hang on, this AI is saying this, that shouldn't be saying this, or sharing this information that shouldn't be sharing that information. So AI into the world, as to speak, but they're not putting any guardrails on as to security, what the AI agents shouldn't say, or what they are able to say, what they are able to access, what information they can access. So yeah, so that's what we're seeing a lot today.
Well, there was a prime example not that long ago, wasn't there, with a company that didn't put guardrails on their chatbot, for example, and it started to swear at customers. So I think that guardrails is an important point. But back to your point, the simple answer being from what you're saying is don't do that full big bang and automate everything and do the superbot, which I liked your term as the superbot, is maybe start a little bit smaller, start with a single workflow, prove the value of that and expand and so on. And if that's kind of true, the way that I've summarized it, I think it'd be good just to start getting a little bit more practical. So if a contact center leader is watching this, listening and thinking, well, this sounds great. What's step one? How do I even start on this journey? What should they be doing now to move towards AI automation?
So what they can do is they can start to kind of have a plan in place, maybe look at their last 6 months worth of calls and just highlight maybe the non-complex sort of calls and see where they can maybe have the AI handle those sort of queries or calls. And what they can then do is they can kind of train the AI model, right? So they can see how will the AI respond, look at evaluations, reports based on the AI's performance, and then they can maybe adjust, maybe put some guardrails. So for example, if they notice in the sort of trial environment that the AI is maybe providing too much information or it's accessing too much data, they can put guardrails to kind of stop that, so that when it does go into production, that their callers and their customers aren't able to access that information, or the AI is not able to provide that information to the caller. So really defining like your security, the governance, how much access this AI needs to provide an answer to the caller. But then also, we mentioned about the superbot. It was actually mentioned in Google's AI report for 2026 that what we're going to start to see is AI have particular jobs or their own tasks or single tasks. So for example, you might have a dedicated AI that handles tasks relating to billing, a dedicated AI that just handles tasks relating to providing intent. What is the caller calling about? And then they handle other necessary or complex queries to another agent to handle. So having those dedicated agents can definitely help, and kind of spending more time on your prompts. So fine tuning the system prompt. So telling the AI agent what their role is, what they are to do, what they're expected to do, how they're expected to respond or reply back. That can also help. There's many tools you can use to fine tune your system prompts. And then also structure your agent and your data so that your AI agent can access it. So if you've got one centralized system, provide the AI access to that system, let them know where they need to go. Also, when it comes to security, what we can do is we can have the keys stored in a key vault so it's secure. So the AI agent is not able to kind of leak those information out to the caller. So your data structure in the way that your AI agent is not able to leak out information is also key.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Oren. Thanks for sharing your expertise. Thanks for sharing your advice. As always, pleasure to have you on. And thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Happy to help. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Always On CXEX. If you learned one thing from this episode, we'd appreciate if you'd subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. If you're using Microsoft Teams and are looking to integrate a contact center, consider trying Voca for free for 30 days. Voca is built on Microsoft Azure, meaning your customer interactions start, stay, and end with the same reliability and 5.9 uptime as Microsoft Teams. Just Google AudioCodes Voca or find the link in the show notes. Thank you again for tuning into this episode of Always On CXEX, and we'll see you in the next one.